Obasanjo said, and this is making reference to Peter Obi, and let me allow our viewers to see this. He says, one other important point to make about Peter Obi is that he's a needle with thread attached to it from north and south, and he may not get lost. In other words, he has people who can pull his ears if and when necessary. He has a young and able running mate with a clean track record of achievement both in public and private life. That statement has now been criticized as such that Obasanjo is perhaps seeing Peter Obi as a puppet that he can play around with as soon as he gets into office.
Well, first and foremost, there is the saying that the greatest place in hell will be reserved for those who keep silent in times of moral crisis. Nigeria is going bad, not because of the violence of the bad people, but because of the silence of the good ones. Obasanjo has refused to keep silent in times of moral crisis. We are in a crisis in this country. Obasanjo wants to escape going to hell by being an accomplice to corrupt leaders, because any nation that votes corrupt politicians are no longer victims, but accomplices. Now, Obasanjo has never kept silent in times of moral crisis. He went to jail because of it, and he came out, became a president. Like you rightly pointed out, 11 years, this man governed Nigeria cumulatively as a military president and as a civilian president. No Nigerian has had that privilege. And fortunately for him, and unfortunately for them, no Nigeria may be privileged to have it again. Except
President Buhari, if he ends his term,
yes.
As soon as he ends his term, he'll be able to fall between the rank of the likes
9 years plus
of Olusegun Obasanjo.
No, 9 years plus. Cumulative.
We're talking about those who have been head of state, military, and civilian.
Obasanjo has 11 years. Why I brought this issue is that Obasanjo knows everything that is required to sit on that seat. Let us come to his letter. In law, the reasons for a judgment is more important than the judgment itself. That's why when a court gives judgment, we the lawyers say, no, we want to hear their reasons. Let us hear the reasons Obasanjo enumerated in his letters. He said, whoever wants to be the president must meet up with 4 factors, which he summarized in the acronym TVCP. Track record of ability and performance. You must check the antecedents. You must check the past. Then he talked about vision that is authentic, honest, and realistic. You must check the future. Then you talked about character and attributes of a child of God and obedience to God. That's talking about integrity. Who are you when nobody is looking at you? Then he talked about physical and mental abilities with soundness of mind. I can't put it in a better form. He's talking about the qualities that we need in the next leader. When I heard these gentlemen talk, I was really asking myself, is Obasanjo in the ticket in 2023? Because they were just talking about Obasanjo this, Obasanjo that. And we are talking about recruiting the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I will tell you what Obasanjo saw in Peter Obi, and then you will do the matchmaking, and the Nigerians will do the judgment. Obasanjo saw in a man who has the capability to secure and unite this country. He did it in Anambra State. He secured Anambra State from being the worst secured state to the best by the confirmation of the IG of police then, Muhammad. He saw in Peter Obi a man that will unite through not leaving anybody behind. No ethnic, no religious, no section will be left behind in Peter Obi's judgment, in Peter Obi's government. Obasanjo looked at Peter Obi and saw a man that will shift emphasis from consumption to production through running a production-centered economy driven by agrarian revolution and export-oriented industrialization. Obasanjo saw in a man who will build world-class and expansive physical infrastructure, not through borrowing, but through integrated public-private partnership and entrepreneurial public sector governance. He saw in Peter Obi a man who will leapfrog this country into the fourth industrial revolution through scientific and technological innovations to create digital economy. Obasanjo saw all these things and sat down and wrote a letter and said, if we want a Nigeria that should be redirected from poverty to prosperity, the only man that can do it is Peter Obi.
Let's take a breather.
If you would
allow you, no, just for a moment. I will allow you to land on that point because you have not quite answered the question that I raised as to the reason why